This is Rogers TV. This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details. The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's debate. Rogers TV is pleased to welcome you to our debate for the riding of Ottawa-Vanier-Gloucester, as we prepare for Canada's 45th federal election, which is on Monday, April 28th. All candidates were invited to this debate to participate in today's debate. Before I introduce those of us who are joining us in studio today, allow me to quickly go over the rules for today's debate. We'll begin with the 60-second opening statement from each candidate, the order of which was drawn at random just a few moments ago. From there, I will ask various questions touching on many topics. The candidates to whom the question is directed will have 45 seconds to respond. Following this response, the floor will open to all candidates to discuss and debate the question. At the end of the debating time, the person asked at the original question will get the final 30 seconds to wrap things up. I will then move on to the next question, which will be posed to the second candidate. We will alternate throughout the debate. At the end of each period of question, each candidate will have about 60 seconds closing statement. Let's welcome the candidates for the riding of Ottawa-Vanier-Gloucester. So first, Tristan Oliff for the New Democratic Party of Canada. Welcome. Then we have Jacques from the Green Party of Canada. Then Mr. Pierre Soublière from the Marxist-Lenenist Party of Canada. And then lastly, Ms. Fortier from the Liberal Party of Canada. The first question is for the first statement, opening statements for you, Mr. Oliff. Please go. We have 1 minute.
Thank you very much, and thank you for hosting us. My name is Tristan, and I'm running to be Ottawa-Vanier-Gloucester's neighbour in Parliament. We live in a special community where we take care of each other. It's what makes it so special. But right now, too many of us are struggling. Out of control cost of living, a housing crisis, homelessness, transit that doesn't show up. It cannot go on. Every election, the Liberals and the Conservatives will promise better. But every year, the same local issues keep getting worse, and it's our community that pays the price for their failure to deliver. Enough is enough. I've dedicated my life to helping people. And as your MP, I'll fight to ensure that no one is left behind. I'll champion the bold kind of solutions that we need to meet this moment. A new deal for housing, transit funding, and a guaranteed livable basic income. Because we deserve fairness. We deserve dignity. And we deserve change. Let's vote for it.
Thanks, Mr. Oliff. Mr. Jacques now, 1 minute.
Thank you for having me in the name of Tristan Proulx and the Greens. Hello, everyone, and to our neighbors at home. Tonight we stand at a crossroads. For too long, we've been stuck in a cycle of short-term fixes and half measures. Former Minister Fortier has had her chance, and while her intentions may have been good, the results speak for themselves. Young people can't afford to live in the cities where they grew up. Hospital wait times are stretching into days, and we're getting slapped with tariffs by the US while our economy remains hooked on outdated industries. And yet, we keep hearing the same rehearsed lines from the same recycled MPs. It's time for a new vision. It's time for bold solutions. That's why I'm here representing the Greens to offer real solutions for a sustainable and equitable future for all. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Soublière.
The platform of the Marxist-Lenenist Party of Canada is to empower Canadians to organize themselves politically by speaking in their own name. It calls on them to prepare to face the consequences of rule by decree imposed by whichever cartel party forms the next government in the name of defending democracy, the national interest, security, and peace. The program of both the Liberals and Conservatives in this election is to win a majority of seats based on the anachronistic first-past-the-post method of counting votes. This does not give rise to representative governments which empower Canadians or defend Canadian sovereignty. Our call is for a modern Canada that defends the rights of all, to humanize the natural and social environment, and to go all out for democratic renewal.
Thanks. Ms. Fortier?
Since first elected 8 years ago, I've worked hard to represent you and face the challenges we have in Ottawa-Vanier and in the House of Commons. This is a pivotal time in our history. This election is about standing up for Canada and making life more affordable for Canadians. Mark Carney and the Liberal team has a strong plan to defend our sovereignty, create and protect jobs, reduce the cost of living, build more affordable housing, and strengthen our social safety net. We've already cut the consumer carbon tax and extended the dental plan for seniors, children, and families. I'm committed to continue to work for you for a better Ottawa-Vanier-Gloucester and Canada. And as Mark Carney has said, it's time to build together because we are a strong Canada.
Thanks. Before beginning with the first question, I just want to precise that Mr. Jacques from the Green Party is standing for Mr. Tristan Proulx. He is a candidate of the riding of Orleans. And Mr. Soublière is a candidate of the riding of Gatineau and is standing for Mr. Christian Legeais. Thank you all. The first question is for you, Mr. Oliff. You've been campaigning for a few weeks now, meeting voters in Ottawa-Vanier-Gloucester, perhaps even going door to door to meet with the local electorates. What are the voters telling you? What's the main priority? And if you're elected, how are you going to address that key issue? You have 45 seconds.
Thank you. It is an incredible honor to be a candidate in this kind of environment because it's an important moment for our country. And what I hear at the doors, there's a lot of fear right now. And yes, there's fear about Donald Trump and his tariffs, but the biggest fear is that every single year, life has been getting more difficult, and people are scared that that's going to continue. We can't let that happen. We can't. For too long, we have seen governments that are open and willing to always protect the richest and the most privileged in our society, but the people are being let down. That's what the NDP is going to bring back, fighting for the people, because that's what we need right now.
Thank you. Candidates are now invited to discuss and debate on this question about the key issue you're hearing for the voters in this riding.
Well, at the door, I'm hearing that people are fearing Donald Trump's tariffs. And that's why Mark Carney and the Liberal team have a plan to make sure that we don't just trust our 13 different economies, but we have one strong economy across the country to make sure that we can have prosperity and we can go through the difficult times that Trump will give us as a country. We also need to make sure we protect our jobs and create new jobs. And I know we'll be talking about this during this session, but that's what I'm hearing at the door. People fear that Trump will hurt us immensely.
Thank you, Ms. Fortier.
Thank you. While Ms. Fortier and Mr. Oliff might finally be door knocking, I've seen Tristan participated in door knocking for over 2 years straight, talking to voters not just during an election, but during every moment to really see what they need. And what we're hearing is affordability. People are scared that they won't be able to afford food or a roof over their heads. We need a comprehensive plan that will take into account what people really need. We have been talking to voters from Pineview, Manor Park, Sandy Hill, every region within this riding. And what we need is to work with them, community town halls, to actually get to solutions that work specifically for them.
Thank you. Mr. Soublière?
Yes. Yeah, obviously, people are talking about their opposition to Trump, but not necessarily in terms of the tariffs, but in terms of defending Canada's sovereignty. And in these discussions about Canada's sovereignty, one of the aspects in which Canada is most independent is within NATO. And in these calls, in these elections, there have been calls to actually raise the level of financing NATO and continuing its participation, aggressive participation across the world.
Thank you. That concludes the debate on this question. So I now give the floor to Mr. Oliff for his final reply in 30 seconds.
Thank you. It's great to have a plan, and it's good to promise and to bring hope and to build out a vision for the future. But over the last 10 years, we've heard a lot of promises. We've heard some great plans. But the reality in our community, what I see at the doors, food banks that have seen 200% increase in the last 3 years in usership, homeless shelters that are overwhelmed, and people that are being left behind. So where were these plans over the past 10 years, and why are we in this moment right now? We deserve better.
Thank you. Now for my second question, Mr. Jacques. Many Canadians are having difficulty with rising prices on almost everything, including everyday expenses. We're hearing of an affordability crisis. How are you and your party going to help Canadians cope with this cost? You go first.
The Greens and Tristan have many different strategies to help Canadians during this affordability crisis, from removing taxes on households making under $40,000, personal incomes making under $40,000 a year, to creating more sustainable transit systems with lower costs so people can get around, get to work, and see their families. We will also invest back in Canadian industries, Canadian goods and services, so that we don't have to rely on other countries for what we desperately need here. By reinvesting in Canada, we can lower the costs and help our communities.
Thank you. Now we open it up for debate.
Well, I think it's important to say that New Democrats fundamentally believe that everyone in Canada should be able to live with dignity, and that your job or your supports should be enough to cover your bills, groceries, and a decent home. But we have had governments consistently, liberal and conservative, over many years who have consistently focused on the most powerful and not everyday people. So that's what the NDP's plan is, and it's what we've always done. We're going to stand up for people, and we're going to make sure that folks can not only afford and survive, but be able to thrive with things like cutting GST on essentials and groceries, and meaningfully improving our EI, and making sure that infrastructure keeps working for people in our country.
Thank you, Mr. Oliff.
We know that, the Ottawa-Vanier-Gloucester residents have had difficulties, but in the last 10 years, we've been strengthening the social safety net. Here are a couple of examples: the dental care program, the $10 a day program for daycare, the Canada Child Benefit, and also increasing GIS for seniors. We've also are proposing now to continue on that strengthening of our foundation by delivering another middle-class tax cut that will save families up to $825 a year, and also work on cutting the red tape to build better homes. These are just few initiatives.
Now, Mr. Soublière.
First thing would be to stop criminalizing worker struggles when the workers fight for higher wages in order to be able to to survive. A self-reliant economy, the control of our own natural resources, rather than selling them out to the highest bidder and to foreign interest, and, for example, control rent and house prices, for example.
Thank you. Back to Mr. Jacques now for a final 30 seconds rebuttal.
Thank you. While former Minister Fortier talks about improvements her government has made to social security nets, from the child benefit to dental care, these are policies that the NDP had to pressure them into to even consider. These are not tangible plans. I commend the NDP as having actual plans set in place, like the Greens do, to have economic and social security nets that work for people.
Thank you. My third question now. Housing, especially affordable housing, is top of mind for many Canadians. How will you help Canadians better afford homes for themselves and their family? Mr. Soublière first.
In terms of housing?
Yeah.
Housing is a right. It may sound superfluous to say such a thing, but once we raise the issue, same as health and education, it's a right, and it should be treated so. So in this sense, we have to stop paying the rich and increase funding in social programs, such as social housing. And we have to take definite stands in terms of controlling, because there's a lot of speculation going on. This is the name of the game. So housing is treated simply like a way of making money, where you actually expulse people from their homes and this type of thing, and then we have a rise in homelessness and whatnot.
Thank you. Now we open it up for debates. Who wants to go first?
Fundamentally, one of the biggest issues that we're seeing in our country right now is that over numerous decades, liberal and conservative governments have sold out the right for Canadians to have a home to the private market. And so when there is not profit to be made on homes, they don't get built. And that's why the price keeps on increasing. And I think that the last thing that we need right now to get through this kind of a crisis is someone like a Mark Carney, who has the chair of Brookfield Asset Management, $1 trillion company, use that position as a corporate landlord, profiting every year from the hardship of Canadians to afford a home. I do not think that is the kind of leadership we need in a time right now.
Thank you, Mr. Oliff.
Let's talk about what we've done in the last year. We've announced the Accelerator Fund with the City of Ottawa, $176.3 million to help this city and the region to have approximately 4,400 affordable units over 3 years, and also a goal of increasing to 32,000 units in the next decade. We are building, and we will continue to build. We also have in the Ottawa region, and the Water Ridge Village is one example, federal lands that we will be using, and 500 units will be going there, hopefully, very soon, including a 30% affordable housing opportunity
for
that
Fortier.
region.
Former Minister Fortier's tenure has seen housing costs become increasingly out of reach for ordinary Canadians. It's time to flip the script. Tristan and the Greens are advocating for a national empty homes tax and invest in affordable housing. From former Minister Fortier to Mr. Oliff, I hear passion, but slogans won't pour concrete. The Greens have detailed plans and the political courage to make them happen.
Let's not forget rent controls, because not everyone can own a home. Some people need to rent them, and they must be protected
Thank
too.
you. Back to Mr. Soublière now.
Yeah, well, see, the thing is that the problems have to be dealt with concretely, like what are the problems? Why are the rents going up? It's one thing to say, well, we gave a bit of money for this and gave a bit of money for that. But I mean, we have to look at the problems that they face us today, and we have to deal with them and find actual solutions, and not just little contributions here and there just to say that we've done something,
All right. Let me follow up with another question that is important to many people in the National Capital Region. What should we expect in the public sector if your party wins the election? What adjustments is your party proposing for the public sector? Ms. Fortier?
Well, I think that we have the most important public service offered here in the National Capital Region. It is our first employer, and we need to continue to have a strength with the public service, delivering all the services to Canadians across the country, making sure also that they have the right tools to be able to deliver those services. And we don't need cuts of public service. We need to strengthen and make sure that we deliver those services across Canada. The other thing is to ensure that public service is the first employer. We know that it'll have an effect on small business, it'll have an effect on procurement. So it's a motor of our economy to have a strong public service in the National Capital Region.
Thank you. Now we open it up for debates.
I'm thrilled to hear and believe so strongly the importance of our public service in times like this, and the importance that our public service is taken well care of. But it's so hard to not remember the fact that in 2023, 155,000 federal workers were forced to go on strike for fair wages, and the negotiations dragged out for weeks. And Madame Fortier, you were the president of the Treasury Board, and I've continued to hear from people at the doors and over the past weeks how difficult it has been because the wages that were received in the end of that deal did not even match inflation growth during that time. And so right now, when our countries need them more than ever, they're suffering because of a bad deal and because of a government that chose executives over our public servants.
Thank you, Mr. Oliff.
While the Liberals have made promises to support the public sector, what we're seeing is practically a hiring freeze in most departments. They're stuck relying on federal summer work programs to get students to take positions just to be able to make ends meet within the departments. And how are those students being paid? They're not even being paid enough of a living wage. Those programs and the stages of payment are now at the same levels as our minimum wage. We need to invest in our students so that they can get the jobs for the future and support our public sector.
Thank you. Mr. Soublière?
Yes. Excuse me. I think the main issue, to add to what is being said, is that the issue of privatization, subcontracting, for example, to speak specifically about the public service. So I think everybody has heard about McKinsey, a company which has a reputation worldwide, a bad reputation, which was hired by the federal government to do work which is not even known. So in other words, the experience of the public sector workers has to be respected, and there has to be an end to privatization overall.
Yeah, I will have to give back the final reply to Ms. Fortier.
There was an agreement done with the Public Service Alliance a couple of years ago, and that agreement was after long discussions at the table, and it was good for the public service and for Canadians. It was a 4-year deal to make sure that these jobs were protected. Now we're in front of a new challenge. The challenge is that Pierre Proulx is going to cut public service and want to cut the services that will be offered to Canadians. Mark Carney and the Liberals will continue to make sure that we have a strong public service able to deliver the services to our Canadians.
Now for my fifth question. The imposition of American tariff, we all have been hearing about that for quite a while now. It could lead to job losses across the country. How do you propose to help Canadians and especially voters from your riding, because that's who's electing you? If they lose their job, how do you want to help them? Mr. Oliff?
So I want to quickly start off here just by responding to something that was mentioned here, because we know that when Conservatives get into government, they cut services. But it's important for me to note in this moment that Mark Carney himself, the new Liberal leader, said that he would look to find efficiencies within the federal government. We know that means cuts. And yet, when he was asked on television just a few days ago to respond to the enormous amount of funds that our country loses through tax havens, he had no answer. Something that Brookfield benefited from. And so I think that in a time like this, as we're facing the Americans and their tariffs, we need to ask a question. Are we looking to elect people who stand up for people, who fight for them all the time, like the NDP? Or do we want to find people like the Liberals and Carney who are going to cut and find efficiencies in our budget and not do anything about the massive wealth inequality that our country suffers with right now?
Now I open the question for debate about the American tariff.
Well, we're faced with a threat called Donald Trump and his tariffs. And Mark Carney and the Liberals have a plan to make sure that we continue to diversify our markets and that we continue to protect and create new jobs across the country. We need to navigate the difficult times we're going to go through and make sure we're there for Canadians.
It's time to use tariffs as a wake-up call. We must stop relying on yesterday's industries. Former Minister Fortier and the Liberals had their chance, but while they now play defense, the world moves on. Enough with playing defense. It's time to future-proof our economy and stop letting foreign policy shocks completely derail Canadian livelihoods. We got to invest in local communities, local industries, and Canadians here, because we have the capacity to solidify our economy.
We can't lose. The question of tariffs is a very complicated issue. At the same time, we can't use it, if it's being used as it's being done now in terms of making the economy more efficient, more competitive, and things like this. This is not good for the workers. It never is. The other issue is that it raises the issue of the economic dependency and the military dependency. This is not being discussed at all. So while we're focused on tariffs themselves, no discussion is being, no talk about NATO and NORAD and the dangers that we're heading to with regards to this.
Thank you, Mr.
I have to say, Mark Carney is the person that will lead this country with his experience and his expertise while working with the Bank of Canada, even before that when he was working at finance, and also had the experience of working with the Bank of England. That expertise and the Liberal team will make it that we'll be able to stand up to Donald Trump.
Thank you. Mr. Oliff, for your final reply.
Let me be
Time for debate.
as clear as I possibly can on this. During times of crisis in the past for our country, it has been the most vulnerable people who have suffered the most. This, right now, is a time of crisis. And so when I directly present an opportunity for us to talk about wealth inequality, about cutting down on tax havens and taking wealth inequality seriously in order to focus on people, and I see the complete ignoring of that question, it leaves me deeply concerned about how we're going to get through this and make sure that people do not get left behind.
Thank you, Mr. Oliff. We heard discussions about reducing barriers that hinder, in some cases, prevent interprovincial trade. What would be the implication for the riding and for Canada? Mr. Jacques, first.
Thank you. We must invest in more interprovincial trade solutions. While we focus on having an American trade partner that has now left us behind, we don't have adequate access inter-province to different services and goods. We must create proper infrastructure for the future, ecological infrastructure that can enhance the trade we have between provinces. We must remove barriers from within because we must come together and unite because now we have an external enemy. The United States is imposing tariffs that are hurting our livelihoods, and we must work together to find solutions.
Thank you. Candidates for the debate.
I looked into this issue of interprovincial trade and what these barriers were about. And what some of the main aspects of it is deregulation. The other aspect is it's resuscitating projects such as pipelines for gas and oil, which were opposed by people, which are pipelines which will head from the, and which are favorable to the oil companies and all this in the West. So that's a very important aspect of all this, is that it's not in a favorable direction in terms of the working people and of the sovereignty of Canada.
Thank you.
We have to turn to our strengths, and actually we have an incredible strength here in the National Capital Region. We have two sides of the river that can work together. But to do that, we need to break down those barriers that we have in the mobility of workers, in the mobility of our products and services. And working with Mark Sutcliffe, the mayor of the city of Ottawa, working with Maude Marquis-Bissonnette, making sure that we put our strengths together, I believe it will help us navigate through the difficult times.
I think another way in which, I think these times of crisis help us to bring ourselves together around the big picture of what is necessary around our country to build a better future for everyone. One of the biggest things that I've heard at the doors, some of the most emotionally charged and angering stories that I've heard is from seniors who have not been able to find a family doctor. Now, in a moment of national crisis, we draw back on our identity as Canadians. We're proud of our healthcare, but right now it's insufficient. And so one of the things that the NDP has proposed, which I believe is very important, is breaking down some of those, building a national standard for doctors around the country so that they can be and be able to move anywhere where it is most needed in that time and
Thank
not
you, Mr.
separated
Oliff.
to a specific province.
Now for the final reply, Mr. Jacques.
Thank you. As my colleagues have said, we do need to enhance our collaboration across borders between us, Quebec, and Manitoba, directly to our neighbors. But here in Ottawa-Vanier, we must invest in people. We must invest in healthcare. While Mr. Oliff and the NDP talk about their reforms to healthcare to help through interprovincial agreements, their party has rolled back its promises to prop up a failing Liberal government and not actually invested in people.
Thank you. Now, the Canadian Medical Association estimates that 6.5 million of Canadians are currently without a family doctor. How will you and your party address this healthcare crisis? Mr. Soublière?
the issue of doctors and everything else in the terms of health, I think it touches upon the issue of privatization and the direction of the economy. When you have doctors who can open private clinics right and left, and then when people, because they don't have a family doctor and because of they're forced to actually go to the private sector because the waiting times are too long, for example, in the emergency rooms. So this is all tied up together. So the issue being that we have to, this is the whole issue of stop paying the rich and invest in social programs and health and education. Because when you talk about investing, often the issue is, oh, well, we don't have the money and things like that. But the issue being is that they have the money and they're giving it to these oligarchs.
Thank you. Now for the debates.
Healthcare is a right for all Canadians, not just for those who can afford it. And we introduced pharmacare so that Canadians can now have access to free diabetes medication and contraception. We've also seen the impacts of our communities across the country not being able to find a doctor, a family doctor. That's why we already invested $77.1 million to integrate internationally educated health professionals into our healthcare system and allocated $25 billion over 10 years in Ontario alone to expand healthcare services. And with over $100 million, we are also ensuring high-quality healthcare for members of the Canadian Armed Forces right here in the National Capital Region through our agreement with Montfort Hospital. There's more to do, and we have to make sure those investments give us more results.
Thank you, Ms. Fortier.
I want to share a little story that I think is important. In the last Parliament, when the NDP used our power in Parliament to bring lasting change across the country in terms of dental care and the pharmacare provisions that were mentioned, when we spoke to the Liberal Party and said that we deserve, as a country, dental care, they said it would take 7 years. And we said no. We said people deserve better, and if we put ourselves together, we can get it done. We can get it done for people, like we did with healthcare, the Canadian pension plan. And it was done in 18 months. Now, for kids under the age of 18 and seniors and soon low-income Canadians are going to be able to benefit from dental care because of the work of the NDP
Jacques?
in Parliament.
While the federal Liberals and Conservatives keep pointing the finger, our neighbours, our families are struggling because they cling to the original Canada Health Act, a framework created before breakthroughs like HIV treatment or advanced medical imaging. They're holding on to a system designed for a different era. It's time that we invest in complementary health teams and ensure reproductive rights across the country and a comprehensive national mental health plan.
Thank you. Back to Mr. Soublière for the final 30 seconds.
I'd just like to remind you that the private clinics I was speaking about a minute ago are privately owned, foreignly owned. And when they're foreignly owned like this, it means that you just have a bunch of investors and they have no clue as to what the actual situation is here because their only objective is to make money. So the issue is that as long as these, the public, things that should be of the public domain are within the hands of such investors, then that's where the problem lies, and that's what has to be resolved.
Thank you. Now, recently, Ottawa's Mayor, Max Oliff, asked the federal government to step in with more funding for the capital public transit system. What is your funding plans for Ottawa transit system? Ms. Fortier, you can go first.
Well, thank you for the question. We know that public transit has been a project in the National Capital Region, and the federal government has invested immensely towards that public transit for roads also. $61.8 million just in 2023-2024 alone. We announced $18 million annually for the next 10 years through the Canada Public Transit Fund, and $1.1 billion was announced for Stage 2 project that should be completed very soon. And also, we added 350 new electric buses by 2027. We're working with the City of Ottawa, continuing to strengthen our public service,
Thank you,
our
Ms.
public transit.
Now for the debates.
You know, I ride the bus to work almost every day, and I see the reality of public transit in our city. There's less routes, the frequency has been cut down, some of the buses are packed, especially in the mornings when kids are going to school. I spoke to a senior who said that they used to have a bus that would take them to the grocery store from where they were, and now that bus is gone. And she has to rely on her daughter coming once every 2 weeks to go do groceries. And so we've heard a lot of numbers and a lot of promises. But I think that it's important we look at our community, one that uses public transport so much, and says, is it a right to be able to make our way around our beautiful city? Is that something that's protected by our governments? And if not, why? Because it's great to say words right now, but where was the action yesterday and the day before?
Oliff.
Well, the federal government and provincial government keep pointing the finger back and forth on the horrid transit situation that we have in this city. What we need is real solutions. We are at a deficit in Ottawa for adequate transit. Like Mr. Oliff, I often take the bus or train. It's the only way I can get around. And they're full. They don't have the routes that are needed. I'm stuck walking extra blocks just to get to where I'm trying to go. And I'm lucky. I'm able to do that. I'm able to walk the few extra blocks. But we have neighbors in this community, older neighbors, people with disabilities that can't do that. And we need to have a comprehensive system of new infrastructure and not just a few electric buses like former Minister Fortier proposes. We need a comprehensive strategy to help the transit in this city.
Mr. Soublière?
Public transit should be seen as an overall part of humanizing the natural environment. So to defend the environment. So that's the whole aim of going on using your bicycle and public transit. But it has to be organized in such a way that take everything into consideration. One of the things I think should be taken into consideration is the fact that because often public transit serves to bring people to work, then they should not have to pay for public transfer to go to work.
Thank you, Mr. Soublière. Now for the 30 seconds rebuttal, Ms. Fortier.
I'm going to repeat again. The Liberal Party has stepped up and worked with the City of Ottawa to invest in real improvement and results. It's not a few electric buses. We're talking about 350 electric buses that will be part of the system. We're talking about LRT Stage 2 project being completed and being used by the Ottawa citizens. We also are talking about investment in a national active transportation strategy, and collaborating with the City of Ottawa is how we will get more results done.
Thank you, Ms. Fortier. Now, we hear a lot about infrastructure and the dire need for more of it in all provinces in Canada. What does improving this infrastructure means to you, and how will you address this issue? The question goes first to Mr. Oliff.
I think this is a fantastic question, because a lot of what we're discussing at this time right now is how do we as Canadians build for the future. So many of the big issues that we see around us are not just because of the last couple of years of failures, but frankly 10 to 15 years or more of not focusing on the future of our country. And so New Democrats are incredibly proud in that we continue to advocate for solutions that go nationwide, for programs that are bold, that are universal. And when it comes to infrastructure, we want to make sure that the industries that the government supports are taken care of. Things like the postal workers and rail workers, who in the past years have been forced to go on strike and then forced back to work without a deal by our government. That's not how we build for the future.
Thank you. Now for the debates.
Well, one project I've been working on with my colleague Yasser Nagvi and actually the whole Liberal caucus of Ottawa is to revitalize the downtown core, including the Byward Market. The pandemic had real effects in the downtown core and the Byward Market, and we've been working with the City of Ottawa, the province, and even partners like the private to make sure that we have livable communities and we increase the participation and the living in the revitalization of the downtown core. Just for example, in the Byward Market, we have now Live Nation that will be in the old building of Chapters, and that's going to be able to bring more opportunities for small business, for workers, and for living in the Byward Market.
Thank you, Ms. Fortier. Now for the other
We must
candidates.
invest in more adequate infrastructure, both within Ottawa-Vanier and to help us be more connected to different parts of the country. With the tariff threats, we have a crisis here, and we need to rely on each other. We need to rely on our neighbors within Canada and not the U.S. We must invest in local businesses and local industries. As Ms. Fortier said, there has been good investments in the byword market, but it's just not enough. We need a more comprehensive plan, not simply glorified stadiums being put in the byword market.
Thank you.
The issue of privatization also touches the issue of infrastructure, because for the past years, in the wake of the antisocial offensive, there has been a growing role for like public-private partnerships and things like this, in which governments actually help private enterprises to make profits out of these infrastructures. The other issue is the issue of self-reliance. In terms, if you're building a bridge, for example, what steel are you going to use? Where are you going to build it? So you have to build it. So in other words, the issue becomes an issue of are we nation building at this point in time, or are we actually destroying, as was pointed out, like with the privatization of the post office?
Thank you. Now, Mr. Oliff, for the 30 seconds rebuttal.
It is so important that we build so that our country and people who live here can do more than just survive. We must be able to thrive. And in that standpoint, one of the most important things that the federal government can do across this country, and that I will advocate for as your member of parliament, is get the government building more homes. Because that is a responsibility we have abdicated to the private sector. And I will say in 2019, the NDP said we were going to bring 500,000 homes per year. But now, because of the delay, we've had to up that to 3 million homes by 2030, because that is what is needed. We're going to get it done, and they're going to be rent supported and non-market. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that question, we have come to the end of today's debate. It's time now for the candidates' final words, and we'll proceed in the reverse order that we started from, which means that Ms. Fortier from the Liberal Party of Canada will start with you.
Well, thank you for listening to us. And I want to say, first of all, it's really unfortunate to see that the Conservatives aren't here today, because Pierre Proulx has been saying he wants to support Canadians, but how do you support Canadians when your own candidate doesn't show up? We are at crossroads, and we need to defend our sovereignty. Mark Carney and the Liberals have a real plan, as I said earlier. We will deliver a middle tax cut, protect and create new jobs, build the fastest growing economy in the G7, and stand strong against Donald Trump tariffs. With my experience, I ask for your support to continue to work for you and to get the job done. Together, we can build a stronger, more inclusive Ottawa-Vanier-Gloucester. And I also want to say that having Blackburn-Harmlet part of the community now will make that we'll have more to do together, and I hope I'll be able to work with you in the next mandate. Thank you.
Now for Mr. Pierre Soublière, you're candidate from the Marxist-Lenenist Party of Canada, you're candidate from Gatineau, and you're standing instead of Tristan Legeais. You can go for 1 minute of final statement.
The MLPC is alerting Canadians about the need for the working people to organize themselves politically. By speaking in their own name, they oppose the power grab by the oligarchs in the name of Canada Strong, Canada First, and slogans which hide their programs to pay the rich and engage in nation-wrecking and war preparations on an even grander scale. The U.S. government and its partners, which have formed a genocide coalition, which involves also the genocide in Palestine at this time, which have created a situation which harbors great dangers for the peoples of the world. The situation calls on Canadians to reject the cartel parties and their rule. In this election, the call of the MLPC is to vote Marxist-Leninist or for a small party candidates and independents. People must prepare to face the impunity of whichever cartel party forms the next government.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Jacques from the Green Party, you're in the riding of Orleans, but you're standing for Tristan Proulx.
Thank you. It's important to note the Conservative absence, not only here in Ottawa-Vanier-Gloucester, but as well in our neighboring districts. How can we have tangible results when they won't even participate in talking to the voters? Tonight, you'll hear a lot of promises from former Minister Fortier and Mr. Oliff. But ask yourself this: who has the courage to break free from the old ways and truly fight for a better future? The Greens are ready, and Tristan is ready to lead with integrity, innovation, and a commitment to the values that we all share. It's time for real hope, and it's time for real change. It's time to vote Green and vote Proulx. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Last one. Tristan Oliff, you're from the New Democratic Party of Canada. You have 1 minute for your final statement.
Thank you, and thank you everyone, for being here today. I think that democracy works best when there is accountability to people's needs. It goes beyond just going to vote once every 4 years. It's about making sure that your voice is heard. And I want to make it as clear as possible to everyone who shared their stories with me across our incredible community of Ottawa-Vanier-Gloucester. I will always fight to make sure that your voice is heard, because that is the responsibility of our Member of Parliament. And that's why I say that I'm running to be your neighbour in Parliament, because in these difficult times, we don't need more polished politicians. We need someone who shows up, who listens deeply, and who fights for real change. We're such a special community, but we've been promised better for years. Our housing is getting worse, our transit breaks down, and people are left behind. But that's why I'm so proud to run for the NDP, a party that believes in dignity and fairness and putting people first. And so with your vote, let's choose hope, let's choose action, and let's build the kind of future that we all deserve together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oliff. Just a reminder that Rogers TV invited all the candidates of the riding to participate in this debate. I would like to thank the candidates who did join us in the studio and thank the two representatives who stood in for the Green and the Marxist parties. A reminder that this debate and all others will be available online at rogerstv.com. Lastly, we want to remind everyone that the federal election takes place on Monday, April 28th. Thank you.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com. This is Rogers TV.
This is Ben Weiss of the Historical Society of Ottawa. Join us for a new series here on Rogers TV, where we explore Ottawa's fascinating history, the people, places, and events that shape the city we live in today. Join us as we go time traveling exclusively on Rogers TV.
Trust me, you are not going to want to miss this. Welcome to the little shop of spring magic, where anything is possible.
It's magical.
13 pastry prodigies will create stunning sweets. It's extreme. The baker who's got the magic touch
This is taking me back to my childhood.
will win it most magical title of all, Spring Baking Champion.
Now that's what I call spring magic.
Never stop. Yeah, we gotta have it. We got the magic.
Jacques has 2 little brothers, and he's the best big brother to them. Now he's in grade 1. He is active in all these different sports, in hockey, karate, baseball.
Anything he can do to be positive, shine some light on you to make you happy, he goes out of his way to do it. I coached Jacques in hockey and baseball. The other day we had a hockey tournament, and I told him to go chase their defenseman, poke the puck away, and he would get a breakaway. And the next shift, he went out and poked the puck away, got a breakaway, and scored. He came into the bench and high-fived me, and it's a great connection to have that with your kid.
We first noticed his symptoms around the age of 2. We noticed his toes were pointing in. We did physiotherapy for years, and there was no improvement. And so you should go see your doctor again and a referral to the Children's Hospital.
December 13th, we ended up getting blood results back and found out he had hereditary spastic paraplegia type 4.
Hereditary spastic paraplegia type 4, or SPG4, is a rare genetic disease and neurological disorder. So what happens is his neurons in his brain and spinal cord are degrading. They would connect with the lower neurons and the muscles that move in his lower limbs. So as the neurons degrade, he's slowly becoming paralyzed. And once those neurons degrade, they can't be restored or grow back.
His legs were hurting him today. He was falling. I'm coaching, so I needed to pull him off the ice and stretch him, massage him. It's tough.
There's researchers in the US that have initiated a gene therapy for SPG4. What it would do is that would replace the disease-causing gene with a healthy copy of the gene. So we're asking for your help to support this research so we can give this cure to our son. And every little bit helps.
Please help us support Jacques and others that are in need of this research for this disease.
I'm Jacques. I donated my skin for research, and it didn't hurt.
Welcome to Community News and Events on Rogers TV, Channel 22. I'm Josh Rackless. The 28th Annual Latin American Film Festival returns to Ottawa, bringing a rich selection of films that celebrate the diverse cultures, histories, and voices of Latin America. The festival is on now at the St. Paul Amphitheatre and runs until April 26th. It showcases an extraordinary selection of film productions from 14 countries, including Brazil, Costa Rica, Cuba, Mexico, and many more places that I wish I was right now, not in the cold Ottawa spring. But anyways, you find a diverse variety of genres, including drama, thriller, animation, and documentary, among others, and not to worry, all films will be screened with English subtitles. Is that for me? Google Latin American Film Festival Ottawa and get your tickets online. To have your community events posted on our website, please go to rogerstv.com, click on events, and post your events. That's it.
Ottawa's my home. I've lived here my whole life, minus like 9 months. When I was a child, I lived in the West End. Teenager, early 20s, I lived in the East End over in Orleans. And now, like a good 12 years downtown, and I love it. It's a beautiful city. Ottawa is definitely a beautiful city. If you live in the city, you know, you've probably seen it, you know. If you're a tourist, you walk by and snap a photo. Do I have a picture with it? Yeah. I've never taken a selfie with it, no. my favorite piece of art in the city, other than the Jack Pine, of course, over at the gallery. But it's just beautiful. Yeah, they don't even know who the artist is that sculpted the thing. It was given by the Roman Catholic Church, and it used to hang in, or it used to be at the center of a big graveyard in Vanier, that huge old graveyard. When we went to the art gallery in grade school, we were on the bus and my teacher pointed it out to me and told me that was my statue because it's the angel Gabriel. So immediately I had a connection with the statue, and it's been there, well, you know, not my whole life, but as long as I can remember.
I would say, well, what's going on right now with our neighbors to the south, you know, I think that's important, but the economy, I think, is the main issue this year.
Donald Trump.
I think it's economic resilience is the biggest topic on the election.
Well, I guess a big topic is immigration. That's one of the big topics that people are focused about.
Well, in the last few weeks, it's been the tariffs from the United States, but what it should be is the last 9 years of, you know, liberal rule.
It's pretty obvious that it's our sovereignty and just not being able to trust our neighbors to the south and building a Canada that's fair and based on our values.
I'm hoping that somebody does it a better job than what Trudeau was doing. I'm hoping that they keep their promises.
I think we all become affected by our environment. Once you're here for a while, you start to decondition yourself from the mainstream activity of living in a city. It's an incredible waterway. And it's an incredibly green space with bicycle paths. The sculptures provide an extra bit of attraction. I'm not just balancing rocks, I'm also balancing the space between the rocks. I'm balancing how the water flows through the sculptures. As you walk through it, then you get to feel the energy of the site. When we're out in nature, especially this much, everything from the landscape to the river to the rocks to the sound of the rapids, fresh air, the big sky, all of these elements, I mean, how can you not possibly be affected by that? And that is definitely one of my minor intentions, is to get people integrated back into a more natural state of being, to become more at peace with themselves and the world around them. And the other thing is to provide a place for people to come and have community with one another. We have a very beautiful life here in Ottawa.
Welcome to Community News and Events on Rogers TV Channel 22. I'm Dave Hilson. The Ottawa Career Fair and Training Expo is happening on April 17th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Rogers Convention Center located at 55 Colonel By Drive. This event offers job seekers the opportunity to connect directly with hiring managers, network with potential employers, and apply for various positions across multiple industries. Attendees can also explore training programs to enhance their skills and improve employability. The expo is open to all individuals seeking new career opportunities or professional development. Admission is free, but registration is recommended to ensure a spot. For those details and to register, visit careerfaircanada.ca/events. To have your community news or event listed on our website, please go to rogerstv.com, click on events, and post your event. That's it.